Hi guys, I'm going fishing tomorrow, back to the power plant. Hopefully I get a revenge this time. But I just finished redoing all my rigs, and I thought I'll show you this one because it's a little bit different. This is your traditional Santee-Cooper rig, but I just want to show you how I make it to save money. This is actually a really cheap rig because usually people use 4, 5, 6 ounce sinkers, which can be expensive, but in this rig everybody uses the smallest sinker they have in the tackle box. But anyway, this is a cheap rig, if not for the peg float, okay? Even with the peg float they're cheap. If you buy the peg floats that they sell for this purpose, those usually cost like $1 or so. They don't look like this, I'm just telling you. They usually foam and a little bit longer, and they're inline instead of this, but they are the same kind of foam thing. But recently, people started putting these bass lures, instead of a peg float here. Okay, so now your rig can become expensive, but of course they don't have the treble hooks and the lips here, and they're more buoyant, but that's pretty much it. But if you don't want to spend $5 on one of these before you're even confident if this rig works, you can do what I did and just find a used wine cork, in the house. Tell your wife not to throw the wine corks from your wine. Wine corks are so useful in fishing for so many things. So let me show you how I put the cork on the line. Basically, all you need is a toothpick and a needle. Now, you don't have to do this, but it's much easier if you drill a hole in the cork before you actually try to run the needle through. Put the line through the needle. Now, see how easy it goes through? I take the two ends of this and I clip off a small piece of it. So you grab this and put it in the hole. One more on the other side. But at the end of the day you end up with something like this. Now you can see this cork is not in perfect condition, the screw rafted in a little bit here. This one touched the wine, but it actually makes it kind of cooler. I like when my stuff looks like this. Then I have a little knot and whatever the hook, and every session I like to put fresh leaders. Usually I will replace only this part of the leader for my next session. This I can keep on. An installation of a cork is not very difficult. I know everybody can do it, but here are some thoughts on why a wine cork is actually a pretty good peg float in my opinion. It's not just a saving of money, but I think it works pretty good. Compared to these peg floats, it wins right away because it's free and you don't have to look at these bright colors, and the Catfish doesn't have to look at these bright colors either. Now compared to these lures that people put here, like Demon Dragon, the cork does lack a couple of things. First, it doesn't look like a fish. And second, it doesn't have a rattle. Okay, so let's look at these issues separately. Now, I don't think rattles rattle very much unless you have like pretty vigorous current on the bottom, because you have to shake something quite a lot to make it rattle. But does this happen even in a, slow moving river? I don't think so. And the other thing is, why would a rattle attract catfish? What is the logic behind this? I'm sure the catfish will eat it even if it rattles, but it doesn't mean that it got attracted by the rattle. But either way, if you believe in rattles, and I still don't, and I'll try them this summer and try to get some more confidence in those. But if you already have the confidence in rattles, you can just buy those and attach them on either side of the cork. Then you say, yeah, but Victor, this one looks like a real fish, okay? And your cork looks like a piece of wood. Now that one is correct, and there is no fixing that with aftermarket rattles. But you know, at least where I fish for catfish, it's always 20-30 foot deep in muddy water. I don't know what kind of visibility you have in this kind of environment, but I bet the catfish can't see nothing. In my opinion, the cork has actually one advantage over these lures. And I don't want to take credit for this point. Somebody else from the catfishing community brought it up, but I really don't forgot their name. It was somebody who was showing you how to do the same rig, but instead of this or cork, he said just use a cheap balloon and tie it around the line. And the reason he said a balloon would work better than any of that stuff is because if the fish accidentally bumps it, it would feel natural. It would feel like bumping the bladder of a dead fish. These rigs, usually the peg float is pretty close to the bait because, you know, you have to keep it off the bottom. So I think this is a very good point this guy made, because this accidental bumping of the fish and the peg float, I think happens quite a lot. And I don't think catfish gets spooked very easily, but why risk this? And in my opinion, a wet cork, if touched accidentally by a catfish, has kind of more natural feeling. It feels like just, you know, a piece of wood or a branch. I mean, it is a piece of wood after all. It just feels very natural during accidental contact. While touching a rattling piece of plastic with your skin can, you know, kind of spook, I guess, a cautious, you know, young catfish. Because, you know, remember, catfish has extremely sensitive skin. They find the food mostly with the lateral line on the outside of their skin. You know, they can't see nothing on the bottom. They don't feed by sight. They find all of the foods and smells by sensing stuff with their skin. So I don't know, this can be a difference sometimes. If you bump this or bump this, this will feel more natural. And that's why I think going cork is not only cheap and looks cool. Now tell me this rig doesn't look cool, okay? But it actually kind of makes sense, at least in my opinion. I'm not a catfish expert, okay? I'm telling you my reasons why I think cork is okay, but I'm not gonna tell you that I would bet my house that this is better than any of the known catfish rigs, okay? I know the extent of my expertise, and when it comes to catfish, I am not an expert. I caught my first blue catfish 4 years ago, guys. So yeah, these are my arguments. Feel free to demolish them in comments below. I always look forward to, you know, legitimate, well-founded criticism. And that's the rig I'm gonna use tomorrow when I drift, okay? When I anchor fish, I use my Anti-Tangle rig. I'm gonna leave that one in the description below. Be sure to check it out. I can't use this when anchored because this thing is just a tangle machine. I don't even put any leader here because I don't want this to tangle right now. It still avoids some kind of tangle. So you can't cast this, okay? You can just drop it and let it drift. But I will be using these rigs, this exact cork, when I drift. And if I catch any fish and I show you the video, remember this, okay? Remember the ugly cork. This will be the cork that'll catch them.